and the fabulous meals each day, we love the onshore excursions to explore the history and culture of these incredible and diverse destinations. But how do we share it all with you as it happens? In fact, we get asked this question so often by our clients over the years. Just how do you communicate on a cruise ship without spending an absolute fortune? In some cases, more than the cruise itself, if data costs get out of control. So naturally, we turn to the folks over at the Wireless Traveler for their advice on the best options for you and us. First off, you should check out the cost of satellite usage on board the ship and plan your data usage and emergency calls accordingly, as it can really add up. The best plan is to wait until you get into port every few days in your land excursions to use either your international plan or a global pocket Wi-Fi and SIM card for reliable, low-cost calling and data. In your opinion, a successful family getaway includes staying connected to each other and to those back home. And the folks over at the Wireless Traveler provide seamless connectivity options at low cost. We have the Wireless Traveler app on everyone's smartphone to call back home for 2 cents per minute. And we're taking a Wireless Traveler pocket Wi-Fi to stream our radio show each Thursday when we get into port and are in range of cell phone towers. And of course, just to keep an eye on the business for me and my husband, as well as to stay in touch with Mom up in Chicago. And so many of our listeners will relate this, as we all have other commitments and often older parents that we want to stay in touch with, even on our vacation time. So everyone has peace of mind while we are away. Just can't wait to share it all with you. We hope you enjoyed listening this week, and we look forward to meeting up again next Thursday for more tech tips from our friends over the Wireless Traveler. To get in contact with the Wireless Traveler, you may call them at 1-866-700-3883 or wirelesstraveler.com. And remember, if you use the discount code PEEKS, P-E-E-K-S, on your next purchase, the Wireless Traveler is going to give you a discount. This is Karen Duncan and the Wireless Traveler. Welcome back to your Bucket List Busters. So today we're talking active travel. And we have a guest speaker, Mr. Matt Paul of Bicycle Adventures, talking about bicycle tours, biking and hiking. Actually, they've just acquired a new company that has some hiking tours. But one of the trends that I came across in preparing for this week's show is about e-bikes. So over the last 2 years, bike tour companies, large and small, have seen a spike in demand for e-bikes. And some of the river cruises that I was just talking about prior to some of the breaks, they are starting to carry e-bikes on board the cruise ship, so that if you want to do some biking while you're in a destination, all you have to do is check out the e-bikes and go with it. And so the demand has spiked for these battery-powered bicycles. And the equipment that they used to have was really heavy and kind of cumbersome. But now, these bikes are used by 10 to 30% of riders on tours. So pedaling kickstarts an e-bike's motor, which cuts off at 20 miles an hour in the United States and about 15 miles an hour in Europe. Riding an e-bike can feel like you have the wind at your back and you have bionic legs. But it has opened up a world of cycling to people that are non-cyclers or that don't cycle on a regular basis. And because that's one of the questions that Matt and I discuss is, if I'm not someone that rides a bike on a regular basis, will I be able to do the bicycle tours? You pretty much do have to be in some kind of condition. I mean, you can't be a couch potato and then decide, I'm going to go on a bicycle tour and think that you're not going to have a heart attack. But if you, if you're walking every day, you're running some, or you're doing some stationary bikes, or even yoga, doing some type of exercise, then I've been assured that they can push you to go a lot further than you assumed that you would go. But the e-bike seemed to be a good starting point, perhaps for people that may want to try a bicycle tour, but are concerned about their level of competence and how competent they feel on a bicycle. So, lots of people are doing it. People that are less fit, guides have a script now for e-bikes. They're not mini mopeds, as some people think. So they want you to respect your fellow push bike riders, is what they call the traditional bikes. They want you to respect the fellow push bike riders as you pass them effortlessly on a climb. And for those of you on push bikes, don't look down on the e-bikers. So some of the tour companies are doing both. You've got push pedalers and then you have your e-bikes. The big thing is they're talking about etiquette is as you're doing the hills, the push bikes or the pedal bikes are a lot tougher to go up the hills. So if you're on an e-bike and you're just kind of gliding up the hill, you can't be laughing and giggling and snubbing your nose at the folks that are working a lot harder. And then the pedalers who are looking at the e-bikers go up those hills. Don't judge them for being on an e-bike because it could be their first time ever having this kind of adventure, and they're eventually going to turn into a cyclist, a traditional cyclist, of which I understand cyclists want to have others ride with them. This is a great way to see a destination. This is a great way to get immersed in the culture, is bike riding through villages and towns and cities and seeing the sights and stopping and eating the local foods. This is really a different way of traveling, and I encourage you to take a look at it. So even the owner of Bicycle Adventures, Mr. Starnes, and we talk about him, Todd Starnes, has had to embrace the e-bikes. About 6 years ago, he didn't really want to do it. He thought it was cheating, but now he's understanding that it is an option for people to get into what he's offering long term, and he's learned to embrace it. So that's the question of the day, is what do you think? Do you think e-biking is cheating? Would you try it? Is this the starting point for something new? I want to know your answers. I'm going to take another quick break, and when I get back, we've got Matt from Bicycle Adventures. I hope you enjoyed this interview. It was really a lot of fun. And I do kind of want to apologize up front. Some of my interviews are recorded. I use a recorded line, and some of them are live. So you'll hear a combination of those on this podcast. But because of our technical difficulties that we had, that I talked about earlier in the show, there may be some sound effects that I don't usually have when I'm doing my podcast. So take that into consideration. But just look forward to it. I'm going to make it as pleasant as possible for you. This is Karen Duncan, your bucket list buster. I'll be back in a minute.
We're a generation of beach-loving, fun-binging vacationers.
That's right, my generation.
That's why Beaches Resorts is #1 for Generation Everyone. With the best water parks in the Caribbean and more land and water sports than anyone, including unlimited scuba. Plus Sesame Street characters for the kids and up to 21 fabulous restaurants for everyone. All included. Beaches, Generation Everyone.
To book your beaches vacation for your family, contact Peaks Cruises and Tours at peakscruisestours.com. Welcome back to your Bucket List Buster. This is Karen Duncan, your host, and we are talking adventure and active travel this week on the show. And I have Matt Paul with me of Bicycle Adventures. And Matt, I am so thankful that you hung in there with me today. We had some technical difficulties, but welcome to the show.
Karen, thank you very much. I'm super happy to be on your podcast. And sometimes technical difficulties happen. No big deal. We'll
I know, this
forge
is
ahead.
part of this. This is part of being an expat. You live, you
Yeah,
learn, you learn all the adventures involved with living outside of your home country. So let's talk a little bit about yourself. So tell me, how did you come to be with Bicycle Adventures? What's your background?
So I think a common thing with adventure travel is that it's not something that was planned from a young age. I accidentally fell into it about 7 years ago. I've always been connected with bikes as long as I can recall. And I've had quite a few different touch points in the cycling industries whether through racing or different work, but never really considered it as a long-term plan until there was a summer I was taking a break from what I had been pursuing, which was in the music, and decided to take a couple months off to come do some mechanic work for a local company that needed some help, and I just wanted a little change of scenery before rolling my sleeves up and getting back to work. And at the end of a couple months, I had a little window into cycling tourism, outdoor travel, and started to see that there was an impact that was happening through this adventure travel thing that I really wanted to be part of. And so I approached one of the owners, Todd Starnes, and said, hey, I was here and I was only planning for a short time, but I need to be part of this. And he was on board with that, and so I got to work. And been quite an evolution since that point, but lots of pretty exciting things happening in the bike tourism and adventure travel world.
So what were you doing? What were you doing in music prior to this?
I was recording music. Engineering and production.
Oh, nice.
It's very, very unrelated to this.
Totally.
I found it to be somewhat unhealthy. Just for me personally, I spent a lot of time in dark rooms,
right?
Which was really great, but I just needed to spend I just needed 3 months. I was in between projects, and I was going to spend 3 months is what I told myself. And I just wanted to engage with people in the daylight. Like those are my,
right.
This is my curriculum. That's what I needed to accomplish for myself. But I never went back. I just absolutely love being in the business of experiences. So.
Isn't that something? I often think it's such a blessing, and I'm so grateful to help people live their bucket list and the experiences that they get to have, as opposed to acquiring additional stuff in their lives. Being in the travel and tourism industry, it makes you feel warm and gooey when people have their experience for the first time. I like those first timers, and they actually get to do it.
It's quite an honor to be trusted with people's experiences, and it's often it's a lot of hard work, and there's an awful lot that happens behind the scenes. It's not just sitting back at the side of the pool or riding bikes in beautiful places. There's an awful lot that goes on behind the scenes to make all those things happen. But it's a total honor to get to be part of somebody else's vacation. It's pretty wonderful.
Yeah, I know. Most people think it's really romantic. And that's what you see on the outside, but behind the scenes, we're pedaling really fast to try to make things happen.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Bicycle Adventures. Tell me about that company.
So Bicycle Adventures started in 1984 in the Pacific Northwest, in Washington State, specifically. Bob Clark, the original owner, was running a tour on the San Juan Islands, and decided that he was going to sell that and continue to build on the itineraries for the Northwest, and it stayed very very local to the Washington region for quite a long time. And about 10 years ago, Bob sold